A small piece of chocolate often waits quietly in a pocket, a bag, or a kitchen drawer. It is there for a soft moment. After work, after study, after a long walk. We break it, taste it, and feel comfort almost at once. But for most of human history, chocolate was not a sweet snack. It was a bitter drink, a sacred gift, and sometimes a cause of great suffering. If chocolate has ever helped your mood, share this story and tell me. Do you like dark chocolate, milk chocolate, or no chocolate at all? In many homes there is a quiet place for sweets. A drawer, a cupboard, maybe a small box on a shelf. You open it at the end of the day. You break off a piece of chocolate. It melts slowly and your shoulders relax. It feels normal, almost too normal. Chocolate is everywhere, in supermarkets, cafes, vending machines, and even small roadside shops. It is cheap, colourful, and easy to find. But chocolate was not always like this. For thousands of years it was rare and bitter. It was not a snack, it was a drink, a ritual, a symbol of power. This is not just a story about chocolate. It is a story about desire, trade, and the long human search for sweetness. Long before Europe knew the taste of chocolate, the cacao tree grew in the warm forests of Central America. The cacao tree is small, with bright pods that grow straight from the trunk. Inside each pod are seeds. These seeds are called cacao beans. They are the heart of chocolate. More than 3,000 years ago, the Olmec people lived in this region. They were one of the earliest great cultures of Mesoamerica. Mesoamerica is the area that includes modern Mexico and parts of Central America. We do not know everything about the Olmec. Their cities are now ruins under jungle plants, but we believe they were the first to use cacao. They likely crushed the beans and mixed them with water to make a drink. Later came the Maya civilization. The Maya built large cities with tall stone temples. They created writing, calendars, and beautiful art. And they loved cacao. For the Maya, cacao was sacred. They believed the cacao tree was a gift from the gods. They even had a god connected to cacao. His name was Ekchua. He was often shown holding cacao pods. The Maya drank chocolate every day. But it did not taste like modern chocolate. It was not sweet. It was bitter and spicy. They ground the beans into a paste. Then they mixed the paste with water, chili, and sometimes corn. They poured the drink from one pot into another. This created foam on top. The foam was very important. It showed quality. Rich families and rulers drank the best foam. Cacao was also used in ceremonies. At weddings, the bride and groom sometimes shared a cup of chocolate. It showed unity. In some rituals, cacao was offered to the gods. Dear listener, think about that for a moment. A drink you might buy at a cafe once stood on temple altars. It was part of prayers, not desserts. Later, the Aztecs rose to power in central Mexico. They also loved cacao, but their land was too dry to grow it. So they got cacao beans through trade and tribute. Tribute means payment made by weaker groups to a stronger ruler. Cacao beans became very valuable. They were even used as money. A person could buy food with them. A small fruit might cost a few beans. A rabbit might cost 10. So when people carried cacao, they also carried their savings. The Aztec emperor Montezuma was famous for his love of chocolate. Stories say he drank many cups each day. Some say up to 50. He believed it gave him strength. But even for the Aztecs, chocolate was not sweet. It was bitter and thick. Only nobles, warriors, and priests drank it often. For common people, it was rare. In the early 1500s, Spanish explorers arrived in the Aztec world. They came with armor, horses, and guns. They also came with hunger for gold and new riches. When they first saw cacao beans, they were not impressed. The beans looked small and dark, but soon, the Spanish noticed something strange. The Aztecs treated these beans like treasure. They stored them in special rooms. They counted them carefully. They used them as money, and their emperor drank chocolate every day. So the Spanish became curious. Hernán Cortés, the Spanish leader, saw the value of cacao. He did not only see a drink, he saw trade, wealth, and control. When the Spanish defeated the Aztec Empire, they also took control of cacao supplies. Ships began to carry cacao beans across the ocean to Spain. At first, the drink did not become popular. Europeans found it too bitter, too strange. But then someone added sugar. sugar changed everything. The bitter drink became smoother and easier to love. Soon, chocolate became a favourite drink among the Spanish royal court. Only the rich could afford it. It was expensive and rare. In those days, sugar was not cheap. It came from large farms in faraway lands. These farms were called plantations. Many plantations used forced labour. Enslaved people worked long hours under the sun. This is one of the sad parts of chocolate's history. The sweetness in Europe often came from very hard lives somewhere else. As the taste for chocolate spread across Europe, the demand for sugar and cacao grew. New plantations opened in the Caribbean and South America. More ships crossed the oceans. More people were forced to work. I think this shows a difficult truth about human desire. A small pleasure in one place can carry pain in another. But at that time, most people in Europe did not see this. They only saw the warm cup in their hands. Dark, sweet, and comforting. Chocolate houses began to open in cities like London and Paris. These were places where people met and talked. They drank chocolate from small cups. They spoke about politics, trade, and news from distant lands. Chocolate was no longer only a ritual drink. It had become a symbol of luxury and social life. Still, it remained a drink, not a solid bar. No one yet knew the chocolate squares we break and share today. That change would come later, with new machines, new factories, and a new kind of world. In the late 1700s and early 1800s, chocolate was still mostly a drink. It was thick and rich. People served it in special cups with small lids. The lids helped keep the drink warm and stopped it from spilling. Only wealthy families drank chocolate often. For many people, it was still a rare luxury. But the world around chocolate was changing. New factories appeared in many cities. Machines could now grind, press, and mix ingredients faster than human hands. These machines slowly changed the way chocolate was made. In 1828, a Dutchman named Coenraad van Houten created a special press. This machine squeezed the cacao beans. It removed much of the fat inside them. This fat is called cocoa butter. What remained was a dry powder. This powder mixed more easily with water. It made chocolate drinks smoother and cheaper. For the first time, chocolate became easier to produce in large amounts. A few years later, in England, a company tried something new. They mixed cocoa powder, sugar, and cocoa butter. Then they pressed the mixture into a mould. A mould is a shape used to form something soft into a solid piece. From that mould came something different, a solid chocolate bar. At first, these bars were hard and a little rough. They were not as smooth as modern chocolate, but people liked them. They could carry chocolate in their pockets. They could break it into pieces. They could share it with others. Chocolate was no longer only for cups. It was now something you could hold in your hand. In Switzerland, chocolate makers kept improving the process. One man named Daniel Peter wanted to make chocolate softer and sweeter. He added milk to the mixture. Milk chocolate was born. It tasted gentle and creamy. It was very different from the dark, bitter drinks of the past. Soon people all over Europe wanted it. Another Swiss man, Rodolphe Lindt, created a machine called the conch. The conch mixed and warmed chocolate for many hours. This made the texture smooth and soft. It also improved the taste. After this, chocolate changed quickly. It moved from a luxury drink into a sweet treat for many people. Factories grew larger, production increased, chocolate became cheaper. Children began to see it as a normal snack. Shops filled their windows with chocolate bars and gift boxes. But behind this sweet story there was still a quiet shadow. Cacao trees grow only in warm tropical regions. Many of these regions were poor. Farmers worked long hours for little money. In some places, children worked on cacao farms. They carried heavy loads and used sharp tools. Their lives were not easy. This is another soft and sad moment in the story of chocolate. The sweetness in one hand often came from hard labour in another. Dear listener, it is strange to think about. A small chocolate bar can carry a very long story. A story of forests, ships, factories, and human hands across the world. And still, people loved chocolate. It appeared in holiday boxes, birthday cakes, and small gifts between friends. During wars, soldiers even carried chocolate in their packs. It gave them energy and comfort. I think this shows something gentle about human nature. Even in hard times, people look for small moments of sweetness. By the late 20th century, more people began to ask questions. Where did the cacao come from? Who grew it? How were the farmers treated? Some companies started fair trade programs. Fair trade means farmers are paid more fairly for their work. It tries to make the system kinder and more balanced. Today, chocolate comes in many forms: dark chocolate, milk chocolate, white chocolate, bars with nuts, fruit, or caramel. Some are cheap, some are very expensive. You might buy a small bar at a corner shop, or receive a box of chocolates as a gift, or melt chocolate into a warm drink on a cold night. It feels simple, almost ordinary. But the story does not end here. The chocolate in your hand today is the result of thousands of years of history, and that history still whispers inside every small piece. Today, chocolate lives a very different life. It no longer sits only in royal kitchens or rich salons. It waits in small shops on street corners and in bright supermarket aisles. It hides in cookies, cakes, and ice cream. It melts inside hot drinks on cold nights. You can buy it with a few coins. You can also buy a handmade box that costs a full day's wage. It feels normal, almost too normal. You walk into a shop. You pick up a chocolate bar without thinking. You open the wrapper. You take a bite. It is sweet, soft, and comforting. It feels like a small reward for a long day, but that simple moment carries a very long story. The cacao tree still grows in warm, wet lands near the equator. Many of these trees stand in countries like Ivory Coast, Ghana, Brazil, and Indonesia. Farmers wake up early in the morning. They walk between the trees with sharp knives. The pods grow straight from the trunk. They're heavy and colourful like small footballs. The farmers cut the pods by hand. Then they open them and remove the beans. The beans are wet and pale at first. They must be left to dry under the sun. After that, they're packed into large sacks and sold to buyers. This work is slow and tiring. It takes strong hands and patient hearts. Many farmers earn very little for their effort. They depend on the weather, the market, and the buyers. A bad season can change everything. This is one of the quiet truths behind chocolate. The sweetness in one country often begins its life in the hard soil of another. For many years, people in rich countries did not think about this. They only saw the colourful wrappers. They only tasted the sugar and milk. But slowly the story became more visible. News reports spoke about poor farmers and child labour. Child labour means children working instead of going to school. Some of them carried heavy sacks. Some worked with sharp tools. Their lives were far from the sweet world shown in advertisements. This is a gentle but real sadness inside the history of chocolate. A simple treat can carry a heavy past. Dear listener, take a quiet moment with that thought. The next piece of chocolate you eat has travelled far. It has passed through many hands. Some of those hands were tired, but the story does not end in sadness. In the late 20th and early 21st centuries, more people began to ask questions. Where did the cacao come from? Who grew it? How were they treated? Some companies began to change their ways. They started fair trade programs. Fair trade means farmers are paid more fairly for their work. It also supports schools, clean water, and safer conditions. In some villages, new schools were built. In others, farmers learned better ways to grow cacao. Small changes, but meaningful ones. Chocolate makers also began to look back to the past. Some wanted to taste chocolate the way the Maya once did. They used less sugar. They focused on the natural flavour of the cacao bean. This created a new world of chocolate. Dark chocolate with deep, rich tastes. Bars made from beans of one single region. Each one had its own character, like wine or coffee. Some tasted fruity, some tasted nutty. Some were sharp and strong. In a strange way, chocolate began to return to its roots. It started as a bitter, sacred drink. Now some people again search for that deep, honest flavour. And still, chocolate stays part of daily life. Children receive it as a small reward. Couples give it on special days. Friends share it during long talks. Workers eat a small square during a short break. During hard times, chocolate often appears as comfort. Soldiers carried it in their packs during wars. Travellers keep it in their bags. Parents slip it into lunchboxes. I think this shows something soft and true about people. We look for small sweetness, even in difficult times. A tiny piece of chocolate can feel like a small promise that life still holds gentle moments. Now, dear listener, think about the chocolate you know. Maybe a dark square with strong flavour. Maybe a creamy bar with nuts. Maybe a simple candy from a small shop near your home. The next time you hold it, pause for a moment. Inside that small piece lives a long memory. The Maya priests pouring bitter cacao into carved cups, the Aztec traders counting beans like coins, the ships crossing wide oceans, the factories with loud machines, the farmers walking through hot fields at sunrise. All of those lives across thousands of years meet in that one small bite. So when the chocolate melts on your tongue, it is not only sugar and cocoa, it is a long human story. A story of rituals, trade, struggle, and hope. And perhaps, next time you open a chocolate bar, you will slow down for a second. You may taste it more carefully. You may remember that sweetness often travels a long road before it reaches us,